Hi there, my name's Gianluca. I don't know about you, but something that always amazes me is when a sequel to a game that has a different protagonist gets to meet the hero that you played before. Just the idea of seeing two people that you got to know about them and had a big adventure with get to interact with each other. But sometimes, games take it to a next level, which evolve into one of my favorite video game tropes ever. When a video game protagonist fights a previous protagonist. I just want to share some of my favorite examples and just tell you about how cool these are, if done right, which I almost do all the time. Because of this, there will be spoilers for the games listed in the description down below, so you've been warned. So when did this trope of boss battles started? For that, we're gonna have to go back to 1999, the year when Pokemon Gold and Silver released. Pokemon Gold and Silver was the sequel to Pokemon Red and Blue. In the first game, you play as a silent protagonist which you could give them a name, but canonically, his name is Red. And his story ends once you become the champion of Kanto. In Pokemon Gold and Silver, you play as a new protagonist canonically named Ethan. Unlike Red, when you become the champion of Johto, there's still one more thing you can do, and that is travel to Kanto. Playing Pokemon Gold and Silver is like playing two games, because not only you get to play in the Johto region, you can also re-experience your adventures in Kanto. But the adventures of Red still happen. As you fight gym leaders and talk to townsfolk, they briefly mention Red and how he was a legendary Pokemon master, but for some reason became pretty distant from the people he loves after becoming the champion of Kanto. He didn't even visit his mom anymore, which is pretty sad. After defeating all the gym leaders, Professor Oak tells you that he lies on Mount Silver to train his Pokemon, so once you reach him, the introduction to him feels so mysterious, but like you've been building up for this moment. To fight against someone that you knew so much. So when you interact with him, he says nothing, and the battle starts with one of the most iconic songs in the game's history. The battle is very hard. Most likely when you first fight him, you'll be underleveled. His Pokemon are very high level, and are the highest leveled Pokemon in the franchise, with all his Pokemon ranging from level 70s to a level 81 Pikachu. Some even call this battle the hardest in the franchise. This battle may require lots of grind and lots of strategy, but the fight feels legendary in a way, not because of the gameplay, but because you truly feel like you're fighting someone legendary, which is you. If you manage to defeat Red, he'll be surprised but still say nothing, and he'll just disappear. Was that battle really worth it? Was he really the final boss, or just a secret boss? Well, that's up for the player to decide. But there's no doubt that you truly had a legendary battle. Red would later make appearances on other Pokemon games, but none of them came as close to the one in Gold and Silver. Other Nintendo franchises have done this trope before. The Splatoon 2 DLC Octo expansion, you battle a brainwashed Agent 3, the playable character in the first Splatoon. But then there's a secret mission where you could actually fight Agent 3 for real. And this fight is tough as dry ink, as they spam lots of abilities at you. I think this is the closest boss battle where the protagonist actually plays like a player and battles like them. The reward you get out of this isn't really that big, in other words, a little pathetic, but it's nice to get to fight yourself for real as a secret boss. Persona 5 Royale has a similar thing with its Velvet Room, where it offers you extra challenges for your party. Two of them lets you fight the protagonists from Persona 3 and 4, Makoto Yuki and Yu Narukami, and they use their signature abilities, which is pretty cool. Does it contribute to the story? No, but what if there were protagonist bosses where they do contribute a big part of the story? In Yakuza Like a Dragon, you are Ichiban Kasuga, another Yakuza who was unfortunately sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit, just like the game's previous protagonist, Kiryu Kazuma. Throughout his journey, we see him making friends and fighting Yakuza to get answers from his master, Masumi Arakawa, on why he abandoned him. It is later revealed that he was forming a plan to disband the last big Yakuza faction, the Tojo clan and Omi Alliance, with the help of the Tojo chairman Daigo Dojima and captain of the Omi Alliance Masaru Watase. Later, you would have to battle a bunch of Yakuza with your friends, and then Kiryu shows up in the battle. But when you meet Kiryu, you don't battle him. He watches you fight the rest of the Yakuza and is even impressed at your skills when it's over. Later, Ichiban will lose the man who was like a father to him, and he will become angry and out of control, to the point to almost killing a man. But then Kiryu stops him, and he says that he's really disappointed in Ichiban, and was gonna share information that could have helped Ichiban in his journey, but now refuses to tell him because he thinks he's not worthy. However, Kiryu tells him a location where he can get the information, and when Ichiban and friends get there, they see Kiryu again. From what's going on here, I think you know exactly what's gonna happen here. Kiryu tells Ichiban that he's a dragon guarding the treasure he needs, and has to defeat him in order to get to his prize. Ichiban's still angry. They both take off their shirts in good old Yakuza fashion, and we see their dragon tattoos, and a legendary battle begins. What I really find funny about this battle is that every single person who has played the previous Yakuza games and got to this fight, their first thoughts when battling Kiryu is, oh man, I'm gonna die. We've known Kiryu for so long that we've known how powerful he is. We've seen him mow through enemies, defeat the most powerful and strongest people in Kamurocho throughout the 7 games. The game doesn't need to tell you how strong he is, because the player would already know because you played as him. The battle itself is pretty alright. Kiryu has multiple phases that changes moves and stats, which forces the player to be a little more strategic, like going defensive or offensive. All phases are his different fighting styles from the old Yakuza games, Rush, Beast, and Dragon of Dojima style. If underleveled, Kiryu will destroy your party, which is what happens most of the time in your first time. But if you know the strats and type weaknesses, it is an easy battle, and I find that a little disappointing, because it's Kiryu, but you don't actually defeat him. Kiryu ends up knocking out Ichiban in the cutscene, which is a little lazy, like they could have made that part of the gameplay maybe. But I'll still give them a bonus point for the banger remix of his theme. And I should give them a break because this is RGG's first RPG, and it is a pretty good RPG either way. After Kiryu defeats Ichiban by a cutscene, Ichiban imagines himself slaying the dragon like in Dragon Quest, and wakes up more calmer and no longer frustrated. Despite losing, Kiryu now believes Ichiban is worthy and is going to be something greater in the future, and lets Ichiban through the door. Despite my complaints, I think this was an amazing boss battle either way. It is challenging and contributes to the story by growing Ichiban as a person, and the future games will explore this relationship with Kiryu as some sort of mentor or brother to him. Let's talk about more bosses that contribute to a game's story. In Xenoblade Chronicles 3's Redeem DLC, you get to fight not only Shulk from the first game, but Rex from Xenoblade 2. Because they come across reincarnated versions of their children, Nicole and Glimmer. The gameplay may not look as exciting, but it's gotta be exciting for a Xenoblade fan out there. Just like Kiryu, Shulk and Rex are testing them if they're ready to survive upcoming threats. And from what I heard, it is a difficult fight, and was very big that you get to fight 2 grown-up versions of the protagonists you played, and grows bond between previous fathers and technically their children. In Devil May Cry 4, you play as 2 protagonists, one that you used to play as before, Dante, and Nero, the new protagonist in the series. The game builds up this epic confrontation between them, because Nero wants to stop Dante after killing the leader of the Order of the Sword. You play as each side with their own goal until they finally get to meet each other again, since assassinating the leader. The fight is pretty epic, and Dante uses all the moves that you had at your disposal, but that doesn't mean he was a crazy boss. He was pretty balanced and offered a satisfying challenge for the player. Nero and Dante would later become pretty close friends throughout the series. Friendship just comes from all places. Lovely. Another really similar scenario is in Prototype 2, where Marine Surgeon James Heller seeks revenge on the game's first protagonist, Alex Mercer, for the death of his family by the virus he produced. Mercer would become the antagonist of the game by becoming a bioterrorist and trying to start a golden age for humanity. But he also gave James his powers because he believed he was a good person to spread his virus, and manipulates him later on to join his cause. But it's later revealed that James's daughter was still alive, and Mercer kept her away because of her DNA being unique or something. And James now needs to kill Mercer to absorb him and use his memories to locate his daughter. The fight itself, I think, is pretty epic. most saying cinematic. It's like watching a Venom movie, but in a good way. But they downgrade Mercer to be pretty weak compared to how powerful he was in the first game. Okay, I think we talked enough about tragedy. Let's talk about something a little bit more brighter. Throughout Pikmin 4, you battle this leafling space dude who is later revealed to be Olimar after you administer a cure. There's not really too much to talk about it, but it's a pretty clever way to sneak in the protagonist. I mean, it was pretty obvious by just looking at him. This last game, though, is way more cooler and interesting. As you probably noticed, all these protagonists you played as weren't really you. But what if I told you there's a game where you actually fight against yourself? Let me explain. Dragon Ball Xenoverse was a big part of my childhood, because you could create your own Dragon Ball OC and experience almost the entirety of the show yourself. Literally. In the game, you are a time patroller created by Shenron and you to correct any changes in the Dragon Ball timeline and defeat the evil demons, To and Mira, who caused these changes. In Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, you create another character who is a completely different person. Why? Because if you connect the account you used to play as in Xenoverse 1, your previous character is part of the story. I cannot express how cool this was to me years ago, but it was also kind of weird since there were like two characters that were basically me in the same room. But anyway, at one point the first character will become corrupted and you get to fight him. The fight is like every other battle you had in the story, but I don't care. This is cool, okay? If Xenoverse 3 happens, let me make another new character. So then there's 3 different versions of me fighting each other. Take notes, Bandai. But yeah, this was really cool, and I loved it. So, this sure was a journey, huh? There's probably more examples out there, but I think I covered enough to convince you that this trope is cool. I think making bosses like this open an opportunity to make challenging and iconic boss battles. I'm not saying more developers should do this, but if it works for your game, then go for it. At least for Secret Boss, maybe. It's just fun seeing people you played as before interacting with a new character and testing their skills against each other. Well, I think I took enough of your time, so I hope you enjoyed the video and this new format I'm doing. I might make more of these in the future. If you do, then hit the subscribe button and leave a like and comment your favorite protagonist boss that I mentioned or didn't mention. And I also want to thank my friends Chango, Amber, and my friend from school for creating this awesome thumbnail for me. They're very talented artists. Their links will be in the description. So yeah, see you later. Goodbye.